Gunner Podcast. Get up, it's the Steve Gunner Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Steve Gunter Podcast, where we discuss the steps, the strategies, and the mindset of real estate investing tailor-made for the pro athlete. I'm your host, Steve Gunter, and it's an honor and privilege to be with you today. So today I got the fellas with me, Nathan Lean and Marcus Gray, realtors extraordinaire here in the Triangle market. It's good to have you fellas. Thanks so much for coming on, guys.
No problem. Appreciate being here.
Good deal, man. Good deal. Well, look, fellas, man, we're going to be all over the place. We got quite a few things to discuss, and obviously there's a lot going on in the real estate market in this country. And, obviously we got the NAR settlement. We got spring market. We just got a lot that is happening. Construction all over the place. But, I'm going to just throw something out, man. First, what are you guys seeing, man? What are you guys seeing on your end day to day, working with buyers and sellers? What is the sentiment out there in the market? What are you noticing?
Well, hey, listen, I can take a stab at it real quick. So, seller's perspective, seeing a lot of prospective sellers that are looking to get back and purchase something, but are hesitant because they have a 2.75 interest rate and a $600,000 house. And it's, why sell that? That right there is a money-making asset. And to get rid of that 2.75 rate, they are just not comfortable with doing yet to go back into a 7% rate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that the pushback that you're getting from sellers at the moment?
Yep, that's the majority of the pushback is, do I want to go into a 6% rate? How much am I actually going to get? What's the difference in my payment going to be? Can I afford it? I'm an investor. Can I cash flow? And now, the regular $300,000, $400,000 house at a 6-7% interest rate is not going to cash flow for the mediocre, or I wouldn't say mediocre, let's say the average investor is not going to cash flow with somebody that's not bringing more than 20% down.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Nathan? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I agree with that. What Marcus says is exactly right. I'm also seeing what I think is just the result of the time that we're living in right now. It's spring, right? It's getting warmer outside. And so people that have been thinking about making a move are now really kind of ramping up their desire to do that, right? And so one of the conversations I'm having with people is to not necessarily wait too long, that if you're okay with that interest rate, if you want to buy that house that you've fallen in love with and refinance later, now's the time to do it. Because the story, it's a tale as old as time in real estate, is if you wait, it can be too late, right? Prices are going to go up, and it's going to be more difficult, I think, the longer folks wait to get into the house they want. And so that's a conversation that I'm having to have with really buyers and sellers alike as they make moves.
And something else, guys, I think that oftentimes I think folks aren't recognizing the opportunity that is present at this particular time. There are folks that absolutely have to move. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you grow in a family and you're in a 2-bedroom or a small 3-bedroom, okay, that's going to get uncomfortable really fast. Don't care what your interest rate is. You know what I mean? You got to get out of that. You got some, situations where people are getting married, people are getting divorced. A lot of reasons why people still have to move. Relocation for jobs. I mean, there's just so many reasons. I mean, we're always going to be moving about, no doubt about it. But I think one of the things that folks have to remember, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, is that if you're talking about an opportunity to buy, like, this is the environment to do it in, and I think too oftentimes, what people sometimes see more is the challenge that they are presented with. instead of the opportunity. And so whenever we begin to see opportunities and see beyond the challenges, now we're getting somewhere because we become solution oriented as opposed to constantly figuring out reasons why we can't do it. What's you guys' perspective on that?
Totally true. I love how you framed that, Steve. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about internally here is that, with the spring market, you can put yourself in a situation where supply and demand tends to kind of work against you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're not willing to take a step of faith and go out and get that house that you really want, you could be in a position 3-4 months down the road where you've got swarms of buyers out, right? It's those summer months when people are thinking about making a move, perhaps because it's convenient ahead of the start of school, right? You want to
Mm-hmm.
land, you got a family who wants to land in a solid place and have things figured out by August or September. It becomes more challenging from not only a time perspective, but a money perspective too, because we
Mm-hmm.
know that more folks out buying in a market with limited inventory means that you're going to be paying a whole lot more for that house later than you would be right now. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of striking the iron while it's hot, leaning into opportunities when they come. Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on that, Marcus?
You know, I share the same, sentiments of both of you guys. It's the phrase that everybody has been hearing: marry the house, date the rate.
Mm.
It's unfortunate that's how we have to phrase it. I mean, we're not lenders in any way, shape, or form,
Mm-hmm.
but that is where we're at right now. It's can you afford the house at the rate that it's at right now? If you can,
Mm-hmm.
make a strategic decision to go ahead and move forward if you can afford to do so. And then in the future months, should the rates go down, then great. You have a product that has gained equity
Mm-hmm.
because now you can refinance and you move forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, all really valid points. Man, I don't know if you guys recognize this, but at least early 2000s, interest rates were much different. You know what I'm saying? Like we got used in this country to having super low interest rates on housing. You know what I mean? Like it's and I get it. You know, the vast majority of people who have entered into adulthood, namely your millennial generation, and now at the ages where they are generally the prominent buyers and sellers, they don't see a time, they don't know a time where interest rates wasn't 3%,
Yeah.
4%, 5%, heck, 2%. But also not recognizing that our economy as a country was kind of like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason why the interest rates were as low as they were in order to stimulate the economy through housing. And housing is one of the ways that the government does that, is to really get housing going because it creates so many jobs, and it creates so much tax revenue as well. And so it's a big part of our American economy. But now, in the age that we are in, where, let's just say, I mean, interest rates are, what are they hovering around right now? About 6.5, 7, kind of depending on what your what your credit score is.
Yeah.
6.5, 7, so somewhere in that like little
Right.
general vicinity. Um, Let me ask you this question: going into the spring market, because now we are pretty much here. Um, what do you guys project? What do you see happening? Do you think we're going to be in a very competitive market? Do you think buyers are going to have more opportunity? What's your take?
I think right now we're going to start to see interest rates hold for a little bit
Okay.
around where they're at.
Yep.
and buyers are starting to realize that it's not going to drop down to a 3% right now. So maybe I should come off the sidelines if I can afford to do so and purchase. And we've been seeing that more and more, or at least I've been seeing it with a couple offers, multiple offer situations. Hasn't gotten to the point where, you're offering, 3-4 years ago, $50,000-$60,000 over asking.
Yes.
With, waiving appraisal.
And that wasn't fun, Marcus.
Yeah, that, it wasn't fun at all, because, you have to have those tough conversations to say, well, how much do you have in your 401k? How much do you have in, investments? What can you pull from? Does your grandmother have a, a benefit that she can give you money from?
Yeah. And look, and even if you were a seller, sure, it felt really good to have your home sell for 50K over, but then you had to go into the market.
That's
Exactly.
it. That's it. Sellers became buyers.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had that conversation with several clients. This world that we were living in 2.5, 3 years ago, I think, it spoiled a lot of people, right? Well, spoiled sellers anyways. But it created within the minds of a lot of buyers that this is kind of how it's going to be. I think now, I'll echo Marcus. I am seeing a few instances of multiple offers, but it's not as crazy, certainly, as it once was. I'm seeing relatively lower in North Carolina due diligence payments or fees compared to where we were, right?
Explain what that is, Nathan, for those that aren't familiar with due diligence fees.
Yeah, sure. So a due diligence fee in North Carolina is an amount of money, a negotiated amount of money, that the buyer pays directly to the seller in exchange for essentially that seller to say, okay, I'm going to dance with you exclusively. We'll take our house off the market. It will go under contract. And during what you negotiate as a due diligence period, usually about 3 weeks or a little less, the buyer bears the burden of having to do inspections, having to make sure that, they've locked in rates and things with their lender, to negotiate all of the kind of items up front that would need to happen in order for that transaction to enter a period where you could effectively move towards closing pretty smoothly. But, 2.5, 3 years ago, and not even that really, a lot of buyers were putting 5 figures and some in 6 figures right down for
a lot of lawsuits going on right now still.
Exactly right. And, I should say that amount of money is non-refundable within a very, a few circumstances would allow it to be, but really you don't see that too much. So, buyers were doing a lot. They were putting a lot out there to get the house that they want. You don't see that too much anymore, I don't think, at least not the way that it used to be. But it still is an active market, right? It's just an active market in a different sense.
Yeah. 855-577-6773 is our toll-free number for anyone looking to buy or sell real estate anywhere across the country. So let me ask you guys this question. Location. What locations are you seeing are really booming right now across the triangle?
You throw a stone, you probably have one. It's, in the Beltline, pretty much anything North Raleigh, that is still something that's moving fairly quickly if it's priced reasonably. Wendell is where I've been seeing a lot of folks, moving to. I have a couple clients looking out in Wendell right now. Cary, Apex, Durham has had a few folks migrating over that way, but mainly I've been seeing Fuquay that has been up and coming with new construction, a lot of farmland down there that's being sold off, a lot of new development. So Fuquay, I think, is going to be one of those hidden gems, as well as Wendell, moving that way towards Goldsboro.
Wendell, man, that spot has really just boomed. Yeah. Wendell Falls is one of the major communities over there. Sorry, Nathan.
No, big time. You guys are absolutely right. Wendell Falls, that's huge. Zebulon. And, even areas like Sanford earlier. Steve, you and I were talking about Sanford. I mean, Sanford's not exactly a stone's throw from Raleigh, but I'm seeing folks look a little bit further out in all directions, hoping to kind of tap into the growth, the expansion that the triangle is experiencing sort of outward. Marcus mentioned Goldsboro, right, where I'm from, where I live. And so back out that way, further back into Johnston County, in the direction east. Things are popping up. And I think folks are realizing that they can have a slice of that triangle life. They can commute, they can have their work and play in the triangle, but they don't necessarily have to feel like they're obligated to compete in a North Raleigh market, right? Or a market with any Raleigh address, which is really hot right now.
We'd be remiss to not mention Wake Forest. Wake Forest is, one of the places that a lot of people didn't, invest in originally, and now it's just jumping. That's the place where you can get land, you can get acreage, you can get that wooded area, and still be within 30 minutes, of a commute to Raleigh or 45 to Durham, places of that nature.
I was talking to some people who've been in the business far longer than me, like 30 plus years in the business. And Wake Forest used to be like, what, where? You know what I mean? Like, it used to be a place of nowhere, essentially. And today, to your point, Marcus, it's really special, really special. There's a couple of neighborhoods over in Wake Forest that's just forever have been incredible places to be. And in terms of property values, you could pretty much be assured that your values are not only going to be sustained, but it's going to go up. Heritage. Don't know how familiar you guys are with that community. An amazing neighborhood, beautiful neighborhood. Used to be a time when you could get into Heritage for $300,000. Not anymore. It's I have not had a reason to look into that neighborhood in quite some time, but I would imagine that perhaps the entry level at this point might be at least 500-600. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen anything over there lately.
Yeah, no, you're about right on there. I mean, if something comes up, it's pretty much gone within a few weeks.
Yeah, fives, upper fives. But that's it's a long ways away from 3. Right?
It's a long ways away from
and then
3.
not and the thing is too, it's not like we're talking about a whole lot of time that it took to make that jump.
Yep.
It happened relatively quickly, I think. From a sort of zoomed out view.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that just speaks to the explosive growth of the triangle.
I'm here with Marcus Gray and Nathan Lean, Triangle Realtors. So let me ask you guys this. NAR settlement has taken place, and that is the big hoopla right now across the country. And, would really love to get you guys 2 cents. North Carolina is actually in a very interesting spot because these are practices that we've had for years. Yeah. I mean, for years. And so I guess in many ways we've been ahead of the country in that respect. But, for those who have questions about that settlement, and it's not complete, to be clear, there's still, court rulings that need to take place. But, what are you guys' thoughts just on a general level regarding it?
Well, couple things that I think are important to keep in mind about the settlement. And you mentioned one of them, which is that it's not settled yet. I mean, in a sort of definitive sense.
Yeah.
What I'm telling people is, rather than panic or rather than, kind of worry about how this is going to affect the housing market right now, understand that we've got to cross several more bridges until I think realtors across the country in general have a firm grasp on just how this is going to affect day-to-day business, how this is going to affect their relationships with their clients, right? Mm-hmm. So we're at an early stage in this thing still, I think. But you're also right to point out that in North Carolina, we're in a really advantageous position because, in a lot of ways, this is how we've been doing business, mm-hmm. right? We've been having these conversations with buyers and sellers. While there may be a norm, and I hate to even phrase it like that in terms of commissions, commissions have always been negotiated, mm-hmm. And we've always had to have those conversations with sellers up front, mm-hmm. Regarding, what they want to pay out in terms of commission, mm-hmm. how much they want to compensate buyers' agents. And I think at the end of the day, we're still going to have those conversations. But what we'll need to do is communicate the value of the services that we as real estate professionals and advisors provide, and the importance of making sure that during the process of one of the largest transactions that most people make at any one time in the course of their life, it's critical to have competent representation, and that's worth something.
Mm-hmm. Worth a lot. What say you, Marcus?
Yeah, and piggyback on everything you guys both said, it's not said and done. I believe they're voting in July, or the DOJ is going to make a ruling in July. But even then, whatever ruling that comes of it, you're still going to have to nail down the verbiage. And that could take, again, as we all know, nobody likes one word versus another word. So that could take, another year for them to actually get the full actual verbiage before they can say, this is what we're going to roll out to everybody in the masses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just something that, North Carolina has been doing. A lot of states did not do buyer's agency agreements, mm-hmm. Did not require it, I should say. And that's just a conversation that if you're having your systems in place and you're having a consistent, consultation, you bring that up and you have those conversations, you ensure that everybody is on the same page, and you can move forward and nobody is blindsided by anything. And that goes the same way for the sellers. Mm-hmm. When you have those conversations, you make sure that you are, advising them to say, this is what I charge or what my brokerage charges to then list your home. And this is how that money is dispersed after said transaction is over. This is what I am going to do. And that's where the agreement comes into place. That's where the negotiation happens before you even bring it to the market. So if you're having those upfront and honest conversations, you shouldn't have any issues, knock on wood, moving forward.
And something else, you've always, as far as I know, as a consumer, have had to pay for good service. If you're going to receive good service, I know for me, I pay for it. You want to go and have a good dinner? I could go to McDonald's for dinner, or I can go to, Sullivan's, which is a very notable steak house here in the Raleigh area. I could go there for dinner. Well, I'm going to pay two different costs, most certainly, but I'm going to get a much different experience for what I, at Sullivan's than I would at McDonald's. But, you pay for good service, valuable service. And, if you're going to hire an attorney, a good attorney is going to cost some money. But also they're going to save you a lot of money or make you a lot of money. Oh, yeah. And the same rules apply in the real estate business. Hence the reason why I think that the cream is going to rise to the top of the real estate profession. And I think that's important. I really do. I think it's something that we talk about within our company a lot. Just what is our value proposition? Ensuring that we are refining that, making certain that we're providing a luxury experience to all of our customers, regardless of the price point. And that goes a long way. And what we found, and one of the reasons why the company has been so successful, is that when you do that, the the people, they are grateful, and they are willing to pay, and they're willing to refer more business to us. And so, there's something to be said about that. And I think as time goes on, we're going to continue to prove to the world, because it seems like realtors are always having to prove to the world that the iBuyer is not going to put us out of business, and the Zillows and the Redfins aren't going to put us out of business. Like, no, everybody's been trying, but it just hasn't happened. And it's not going to happen because realtors provide a great value to the public.
They do. Steve, can I add one thing?
Yes.
To that? I love absolutely everything you said. One thing that I think is important to keep in mind is that there can be this misconception that because we have exclusive listing agreements and exclusive buyer's agency agreements, that the agents operating on both sides of that transaction, representing their respective clients exclusively, are somehow at odds, or that there's this environment where if you're a listing agent, you list the house and you sit back and wait for a buyer's agent to come along. If you're the buyer's agent, you're the MVP, you're the one hustling, doing all the work, bringing the client, bringing the buyer. And, as I've tried to conceptualize what this lawsuit and its fallout means, one of the things I've been thinking about is the importance of communicating to our clients that, yes, while we represent you exclusively, it's really critical to have two competent, talented agents on each end of that transaction.
100% agree.
That communicate and that, yes, represent the best interests of their clients, but that work together to get everyone to the closing table, because that's something that's really critical. And, if we're devaluing one side by saying, we're going to offer less, we're going to pay less because I'm only going to pay for my side, that could potentially create a situation where transactions get really unstable and really rocky, because you don't have those pillars on each end that are saying, okay, let's figure out how to overcome this challenge. Let's talk about finding a solution to this problem.
That's good.
Let's iron out this wrinkle in the interest of getting everyone to the closing table and closing. And that's ultimately the goal of clients, right?
Yep.
To close, to sell the house that they've been living in, to buy the house and close on it that they've been wanting for so long. So understanding at the end of the day that there are two really important people working with their respective clients is, I think, part of what we as agents need to communicate, and that the public needs to understand.
I love that. Marcus, did you have something further on that point?
No, he hit the nail right on the head. I mean, you can't
baby
expect a $500 agent to bring the same service as a $2,000 agent. Not to say that that's the price point that they should get.
Right.
Like you said, McDonald's, Sullivan's. You go to the restaurant, you expect that type of service based on where you're going. Fast food, not really going to get you quality service.
Yeah.
Sullivan's upscale is going to get you there. You're paying for that network. You're paying for those expertise. You're paying for the time that they've put into the business, and develop that Rolodex, if I may say, of contacts that they can, go back to and source to help you out of a bind. When a lender doesn't work with you, or when the appraisal comes in low, what do you do? Who do you call? Where do you go from there? That's what you're paying for, is those types of services.
Yeah. All good points, guys. Really good points. I'm going to switch gears for a moment, and I hate that I can't share my screen with you all, but I'm going to read a little bit. I think I still know how to read. We're going to give it a shot, though. So, fellas, we were talking about land positions that or land that we are noticing is being acquired. And recently, a home builder just tied up some land up in Franklin County, actually purchased it, and went just a little bit over $1 million. And It's one of the fastest growing counties in the state. I actually didn't know that. Did y'all know that? Franklin County, one of the fastest growing counties in the state. And they purchased roughly about 15 acres. And a lot is happening over in Franklin County. I don't know how often you guys are getting up that way. That's just north of Raleigh. But what are you seeing, man? What are you seeing? That new construction inventory is really getting ready to start coming out of the ground here over the next few years.
I was gonna say that 100% agree. It's a land grab as of right now. You can't make more land, so builders are buying it up right now, and at astonishing rates. And if you take a look at the city planning websites and stuff like that, you can see where they're buying at, and to feel certain big builders are buying. They have 9 parcels that they've purchased over the last year, and they're going to be bringing on 9 developments in the next year and a half, is what they said, since I've been touring new construction. And that's just to tell you that they're never going to run out of inventory. It's just a matter of when that inventory is going to hit the market,
when it's going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, one of the conversations I'm having with many of my clients is precisely related to that, right? Where they ask about new construction, but maybe they're not looking for new construction. I mean, it's the new construction market, the diminishing availability of land because national home builders are coming in and buying up, as Marcus mentioned, large parcels of it and developing them and building. That affects the market overall, especially when you're a residential resale buyer or seller, really, residential resale seller. And now what you've got to keep in mind is, in terms of where you position your house in the market, what about this new subdivision, right? This new construction subdivision that's popped up down the road from me in an area that used to be farmland. And now suddenly that is a factor for buyers that are coming along and who are having to differentiate between your house that's for sale and something new that's popping up. So, I think it's naturally the case that a lot of buyers tend to get excited about new construction. I love new construction. I love showing it. Love working with buyers and helping them navigate the process of buying a raw piece of land and building a house. That's wonderful. But it affects the market in such a broad sense, right? And I will say I don't get up that way north of Raleigh too often, but even outside of that, I mean, the triangle, as I mentioned earlier, is just expanding in all areas, and so new construction is a huge part of that, where you've got that farmland, you've got that raw turf that now becomes prime, right? Prime real estate, potential for development that affects everyone.
And it's so interesting because that urban sprawl, the broadening of the triangle, as you mentioned, continues to create these prime opportunities that did not exist before. And that's what's so special. You know what I mean? There once was a time where you had to live in, say, Raleigh in order to have a prime piece of real estate. And then, to narrow it down even more, it had to be within specific locations, specific neighborhoods or zip codes within Raleigh. Well, today that is different. It's not the case at all. Marcus mentioned earlier that, within a stone's throw, what's the hot locations? I don't know. Let's just, over there, you know what I'm saying? But, this urban sprawl into Franklin County, into Johnston County, into Lee County, into, all of these various directions, it's like, wow, this is really happening. When I first got into the business, it wasn't like this. It most certainly was not like this. Heck, in fact, you talked about Durham earlier, Marcus. I mean, Durham was like, who wants to live in Durham? You know what I'm saying? But now that's not the case, man. Durham is lovely. I love Durham. Absolutely love it. I mean, I don't know when's the last time y'all were downtown Durham, but man, downtown Durham is popping, man.
Oh, and consistently ranked as one of the best places to live in the United States and move,
Yep.
right? And in large part because of the real estate market, because of the opportunities too that the real estate market create. And yeah, I mean, just a lovely place. So much happening there.
Yep. Yep. So realtor.com just had a article that they put out recently talking about when is the best time to list a home. And based on realtor.com, it said it is the week of April 14th to April 20th. So that is coming up real soon. I mean, whether or not that's true, I mean, that's for debate. But what we do know is that we are entering the spring market. And I feel like it's already been so busy in the first quarter of the year that we felt like it's the spring market. So it's, we haven't even gotten into it yet, but we're going into it. And they are correct, at least in the sense that the month of April, if you just look at all the graphs, man, the month of April, real estate is like this. You know what I'm saying? Real estate, April and May is like this. What are you doing to prepare, both your sellers or buyers? I don't care where you go with it. You just kind of, go with it, how you want to. But what are you doing to prepare them for this spring market? What are the conversations that are being had right now?
One of the things I'm doing is reaching out well ahead of April, right? You can't start these conversations in April. You can't start them in March, right? These are conversations that need to be had well in advance, right? Prior to the new year. What are the things you need to be doing to get your house in tip-top shape so that when that sweet spot, if it is a sweet spot, and I don't necessarily know, comes, you're not floundering, right? We're putting you in a situation where we've transformed your home into a product that we bring to the market and sell for as much money as possible. How do we get to that point? And every house is unique. Every situation is unique. I'm dealing with some clients right now who are preparing their house for not April, but early May. And one of the things we're doing and have been doing is going through it and identifying what are all the pieces of this, right? Do we need to bring in a stager? And also what's happening in the market around you. I think one of the things that realtors tend to, or at least realtors that I know, tend to not do so well is to not look at, not that any of us can predict the future, right? But looking at past sales, not looking at active listings, not looking at coming soons, not working your network to figure out what's happening around you so that when we put you in this market in the spring, we've done everything that we can do, right? Short of things that no one can prepare for or expect, but we've done everything that we can do to get you a win. And like I said, that can go in 10 different directions. But yeah, that April market, you've got to be planning for that in December or earlier, right? To really effectively take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Marcus?
And I've had these conversations with a lot of buyers as well as sellers. Think of it this way. If you're buying a home, where are you coming from? Typically, you're going to be renting. And if you're renting a house or a home, apartment, whatever the case is, you need to give a 60-day notice. You need to have some type of plan of action, 2-3 months out. So your starting time, again, like Nate said, it's not going to be in the same year as April. You should have been planning since November. I've had a whole bunch of conversations to say, well, what happens in April that most folks don't really, wrap their head around? Tax return time. And I had a guy who just
well, in my case, I don't get a tax return. I pay a tax.
and that's the point too. You're either owing money or you got a little decent return check.
Oh, I always owe money. Yeah, uh, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to think about that. Why you bring that up, Marcus?
Because this year a lot of people are owing money.
Yep.
It's been one of the things that I'm owing 12,000 that they didn't plan on.
Mhm.
And so now that puts them in a whole entire path that's like, well, I wanted to buy a new house this April, and now I owe $12,000 to the government, and that's my down payment money that I was thinking I was going to get or use. So, I bring that up to say, we have those conversations with our buyers and sellers to say, during this time, you have to account for, have you prepared your taxes correctly? Have you done so and so to get your house ready for the market? Because you never know what situation might come up to say you owe this amount, or you're not going to get back as much as you thought. So we try to have those honest conversations to make sure we're covering our ends, because these are questions and situations that the typical person is not thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to that point, beautiful, Marcus, to that point, advising clients that are buyers early enough in the process, well ahead of that April market, to maybe stash a little bit more away if they're able, right? Hey, look, this April market's going to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
We're not buying a house in the dead of winter here. And so to the point of due diligence, which I mentioned earlier, I mean, can you put aside a little bit more money to make your offer more competitive when it's time? Even if it's a couple $100 a month, you never know. I mean, have that conversation with buyers, though, early enough so that when April comes and it's time for them to make a move, they're able to knock it out of the park. I think, every advantage you can give your clients a win.
And you guys are hitting on something that is really important, kind of going back to the conversation we were just having a minute ago regarding the role of the professional real estate person. Um, like these conversations that you're having, you are an advisor, a trusted advisor to this customer. And so, the deal may work out, the deal may not work out. Who knows? We don't know. But what you're doing is you're providing such a wealth of valuable information and insight to that client early on, where you're not getting paid to do that. You understand what I'm saying? You're just doing it because you're like, okay, if this is our goal, I want to help you accomplish your goal. But guys, here's what we need to do. Let's prepare ourselves properly. That's what a good advisor does, constantly preparing their client for the best that could happen and the worst that can happen, giving them all sides. So I love that you guys are hitting on these points.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of exactly what you said, Steve. I mean, that's part of the value that real estate professionals bring, and I think just to connect a lot of different dots that we've been talking about here. I mean, the settlement with NAR and all that. There's a big misconception about how real estate agents get paid, right? And when they get paid, and to know that if you're paired with someone that's really got your back and that really knows this business, they're going to be doing a whole lot of work for you. I'm going to be doing it. You're going to be doing it. Mark's is going to be doing it well ahead of any closing, well ahead of any, any compensation coming. And yeah, that's just so critical because we are in the business of helping people, right? We're in the business of selling products, selling homes, but we are in the business of helping people. And though we're not financial advisors in an official sense, in an unofficial sense, we sure as heck are. Because we're dealing with a lot of money that if it goes sideways can ruin people. And so we've got to get it right, and we got to work with people in advance to make sure that all of the T's are crossed, all of the I's are dotted. And that's what we do. That's that.
Can I add one? Well, a few other things to what you just said.
Please.
Yeah. You're a financial advisor in an unofficial sense.
Yeah.
You're also a therapist. You're also a spiritual advisor. You're also you're also a divorce attorney
Yeah.
unofficially. you know, you wear a lot of hats. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know too many professions that operate that way, where you know the realtor is really needing to be a lot of different things to people. And it's not because we have to be, but it's because it's the right thing to do. You know, it's important to be a human. You know, as a human being, we none of us are just one thing. So you got to understand, what are these people dealing with? What are they going through? And speak to that, and be empathetic towards that. So I love that you hit on that point. Marcus, I'm sorry, were you getting ready to say something?
Oh no, I'm agreeing with everything you guys are saying. You know, I've given out more disclaimers in this profession than I have in any other job that I've held. You know, just to make sure, just to let you know, I'm not a lender. Just to let you know, I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
home inspector. Just to let you know, I am not. You know, not to say that I don't want to give out the advice or anything like that, but from our experience, from
Mm-hmm.
our negotiation experience, from our inspection experience, this is what we can tell you that we have seen. This has happened. This has happened. I've seen that color. It looks like it might be the M word.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to usually say these things, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, we need to get an inspector in here, and you know, it's one of those things that I'll talk you out of a house before I'll talk you into one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not to say that I don't want to sell or I don't want you to buy that house. It's, again, we're advising you, we're advisors, and it's our
What's in your
job to
best
point out.
interests?
Correct.
That is so critical. That is so
Mm-hmm.
critical. And if folks watching and listening take away one point, I hope that it's that real estate agents can sometimes get a bad rap. But if you are paired with a quality
Mm-hmm.
professional, not only are they going to do the job that you've hired them to do effectively, um, but they're going to do it with an interest in your best interest, right? They're going to do it. They're going to do it in a way that puts their care for their clients ahead of a closed transaction. One of the first deals I ever did in real estate involved a good friend of mine who bought a little house right on the Wake County line. It was in Garner, but with a Wake County address, and it had a septic tank that went that was in the front yard. And I told this buyer of mine, we're going to have a house, standard home inspection, radon, all that, but we're going to need to do a septic inspection too, because you're on septic. And we want to make sure everything checks out. Well, the septic tank had a crack in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was frankly a devastating issue that would have involved a whole lot of money, a fair amount of time, and it wasn't clear in negotiating with the seller that we were going to come to a resolution. So I had to do the tough thing and tell my buyer, I think you need to walk, because I'd rather you lose a few $1,000s in due diligence than to take possession of a house that isn't what it should be. And I remember the angst that
Mm-hmm.
he felt and that I felt over that, especially that given that I was relatively new in the business. But to this day, and he and I got together not long ago. He thanks me for that and said, look, you did what anyone would want of their agent, which was to say to me, I got your back, and here's what we need to do. And so, to the points that you guys have made, I mean, it's absolutely the case that we're in it for our clients.
100%. 100%. And you cannot be in this career very long unless you are. Uh, Point blank. That's
Yep.
just the way it works. And for those who are in it for the money, and think they're getting ready to get rich in a year and all of these silly things, I mean, you better think again. You better, like, I promise you, there are a lot of other ways to make money
Yeah.
than this, that is less stressful.
Oh, yeah.
And but if you love this, then you approach it differently. It's a practice. You approach it as such, and you approach it with the care and the discipline that it requires. And that's what I'm certain that we do here.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Wait a minute. Why is this going?
It's a soundtrack to the
podcast got a little too hot.
Hold on one second. Somehow my phone rang, and now this thing is freaking.
We were dropping so much knowledge, it just broke the internet.
I know, right? Okay, here we go. All right, now we're back. We're back. That's hilarious. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, last story. Then I'm gonna let you guys go. I feel like I took up so much of your time today. So there's a story that came out talking about the country club world and how the breakout growth is over, and that wait lists and initiation fees have gone up, but now there are a lot more people also on the waiting list. And I got a question for you guys. Which country clubs are you guys on the waiting list for? By the way, the going rate is about $50,000 to join the country club. What do you guys? Nathan, are you a member of the Carolina Country Club?
I'm not. I'm on 0 wait lists.
Mm-hmm.
I will always be on 0 wait lists. Not people that are members of country clubs. Just not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine paying $50,000 though to be on a wait list.
Mm-hmm.
No. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. That's not my thing. But to each his own, right?
Yeah. How about you, Marcus?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have about 0 waitlisted country clubs. Same thing with Nate. I'm not planning on, join just to be on a wait list, just to turn around and spend $50,000, even $100,000, depending on the country club that you're at. Unless they're going to drive me from my house to the country club and then back home and then pay for the board. It's not, to me, I don't see it to be there. Now, some, positions, they feel that it's a status position. You get to this country club and, hey, I made it. It's not going to be that way. Not for $50,000. I'd rather get a lifetime membership at Sullivan's.
All you can eat.
Yeah, just give me a booth for $50,000. Just put me in a booth. All you can eat steak, for the rest of my life.
There you go. Well, look, fellas, you guys have been wonderful. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your energy. And we'll see you soon, guys.
Thanks,
Steve. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Can't stop, we can't lose. You can't win if you snooze. So do more and say less. So get up and let's work and be the best. Yeah, you're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast. Yeah, the Steve Gunner Podcast. You're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast. Get up, it's the Steve Gunner Podcast.